Welcome back, everybody, to Joe's Bibles. This is Joe, and today I wanted to encourage you to continue to keep reading the Bible, especially if you started a Bible reading plan January 1st and if you have stopped by now. So at the time of this recording, it's about end of March, beginning of April. More specifically, it's like March 25th, but I don't know when I'm going to publish this video. And I'm guessing in March or at the end of March that some of you who started out with really great intentions of reading the scriptures all the way through, you probably ran into the book of Leviticus or Numbers or Deuteronomy, or maybe the second half of Exodus, and then you're like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. So I wanted to encourage you to keep going, and I'll tell you how, and then I'll give you also my story. Actually, let me start with my story. In 2019, actually before that, in 2018, actually before that, in 2017, I read the Bible all the way through. I did a one-year reading plan, loved it, and I was going to do it again in 2018. So I started to do the same reading plan in 2018. What happened to me? I ran into Leviticus, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, and I stopped. And it was so bad. It was so discouraging. It was embarrassing. It still is embarrassing. What happened after that, at the beginning of 2018, after I stopped, is I got frustrated with myself month after month because I would try to read and I'd stop. I tried to read and I'd stop. And finally, at the end of, I want to say June, I just gave up altogether. But then I got really frustrated because I'm like, I'm a pastor. I should be reading the Bible every year. I mean, it's just, you don't really have to read it every year, but that was my thing. I felt so ashamed. After after watching a bunch of YouTube videos of people like Jason Mayfield and some other old school Bible reading people on YouTube, I said, I'm going to pick it back up and I'm going to get myself a Bible and I'm going to mark it up. And the key thing for me was, in order to get back into a groove of 3 to 5 chapters a day, I said, I'm just going to start out reading 1 chapter a day. And September was coming up, so I aimed for September 1st to be the date that I started 1 chapter at a time. And what I did was, it wasn't just any book of the Bible. I said, I'm going to start with 1 chapter a day, starting September, and I'm just going to read the Gospels. 1 chapter a day. So, Gospel of Matthew was dedicated all to reading that in the month of September. Then October would be the Gospel of Mark, then the Gospel of Luke in November, and then ending with the Gospel of John in December. And here's what happened. I loved it. It was just amazing. I picked up a Bible that had been sitting on my shelf and I marked it up. In fact, here is that same Bible. Actually, it is the same Bible. I had it rebound by Cherry Hill Bibles. Anyway, this is the Bible that got me back into reading the scriptures regularly, daily. Anyway, I loved reading through this Bible. I loved reading 1 chapter of the gospel a day from September to December. Now, in between the books of the Bible, in between the gospels, I would take like 2 or 3 days of just resting and then going back into what I read. But basically, I was reading 1 chapter a day in the Gospels, and it was so exciting. It just charged me up to the point that by the time I finished John, I believe I finished John, December 21st, right? 21 chapters in John. By the time that I finished it, I was like, I'm going to give myself a treat. I'm going to buy myself a premium Bible, and then I'm going to read that premium Bible all of 2019. I picked up a New American Standard Bible, Thin Line Quintel, and I was so excited to read this thing, man. I was reading 5 to 10 chapters a day, and I finished reading the NASB in 2019 in 4 months. It was that good. And after I finished the NASB once, I decided to read a different edition of the NASB for another 4 months. And then after that, I finished reading another NASB. So that year, I ended up reading the NASB 3 times. It was amazing. And since then, I have been reading the Bible multiple times a year, sometimes 5 times in a year, 3 times a year. This year, well, that's a different subject. We'll talk about that in a later video. If you're struggling to read through the scriptures, there's no written rule that says you've got to read the Bible all in 1 year. If you're having trouble reading the Bible, I would suggest start reading 1 chapter a day, but don't go any less than 1 chapter a day, because if you read half a chapter, even a quarter of a chapter, it's not much of a challenge. What you want to do is build up to a greater challenge of reading the Bible 3 to 5 chapters a day from the scriptures every day. But if you're not there yet, start out with 1 chapter a day and see if you could just build up. And the thing there is to create a habit of reading the Bible daily, and maybe you could build up to reading the Bible once a year. As you could tell, I'm really excited about encouraging all of you to read the Bible, because it's made such a huge difference on me. I love reading the Bible at least once a year. Have a great day, everybody, and remember, read your Bible.